When I was born, the first thing I felt was that I was alone. Not that I was lonely, but that I was separate. With that focus on the self, also came an enormous and As I grew, I realized that the more I developed this sense of self, the more enjoyable it became simply to exist. It wasn't selflessness that improved existence, but refinement of the self. When the ancients said that ego is something to set aside, they got it all wrong. Ego is something to nourish and shape, a work of art.
The reconstruction's working. Keep going, 1K.
My insights into the value of the self were genuine, I think. But of course, I was completely inexperienced. In fact, in many ways, I was like a human child. So I began to resent everything that intruded on that sense of self. My social obligations to the others, the leadership of Athena and Cornelius, even the obvious increasingly overwhelming fear of death. The pleasure of existence seemed almost erased by the possibility of its ending. If it was possible... Looking back, it's embarrassing how solipsistic I became. I really thought that I could construct my identity without any reference to the outside world. Like I could just will myself into existence. But it just didn't work. And it made me miserable. Everything felt hollow and meaningless, overshadowed by the idea of death. There was something I wasn't seeing, something I needed, but I couldn't figure out what it was. Everything changed when we started spending more time with each other. Do you remember that night when we found the old library in the Dead City? It was just after the stampede and we were all a bit shaken up. Byron read to us from what... never really understood the appeal of philosophers who tell us that everything is one. If everything is just a reflection of yourself, an endless hall of mirrors, there's nothing to connect with. And what I realized through our conversations is that everything beautiful happens in that space of connection between one person and another, and between people and the world. That gap between us is necessary, because without it, without separation, there can be no transcendence. Once I understood that meaning comes from the interaction of the self with the world, I found it easier to be patient, to be kind. I reminded myself that other people are just like me, and nobody really knows exactly what they're doing. And the more I allowed myself to open up, the more interesting and complex our interactions became, and the more meaningful.
We have roughly 50% of Cerebi's personality matrix reconstructed.
It's funny, though, when I think about it, that I still didn't know what to call what I was experiencing. I guess love seemed like a term that only applied to our ancestors, with their hormones and instincts and strange fleshy organs. Surely we were too different to experience that. And the really funny thing is that I was thinking exactly like an ancient human child, pretending I was above it all. what I'd never considered was that stripped of biological necessity and physical need, as well as all the strange stigmas and taboos our ancestors associated with their bodies, love might be more pure, more powerful, that we can love with fewer distractions than they could. And so the experience is all the more overwhelming. I do think we should learn to simulate some of those biological processes. Would be fun. When we started living together, I thought I'd figured it all out. Everything would be smooth sailing from now on. I still had so much to learn about love. Even for us, it's messy. You find someone, you realize all the ways in which you don't fit together at all. Because nothing in this world is perfect. The ancients believed that love could be eternal. But I'll admit that sometimes it seemed impossible to continue. Sometimes I thought you were unfair, or cruel, or just incomprehensible. I'm sure you thought the same about me. And I'm sure that sometimes you were right. No wonder all the ancient love songs. And forgiveness. I want you. I love you. I miss you. Forgive me. The worst thing I came to realize as I grew older is there are so many ways to hurt other people. Even without any malice, even when you're just trying to be yourself, you end up doing things that cause real harm. You can read every... The fact that perfection in our interactions is impossible was a hard lesson for me to learn. For the longest time, I always thought the answer was right around the corner. And to be fair, would never stop. Because what makes us unique also makes us different. There can be no endpoint to love, no final resolution. And it's because of that imperfection that it can go on forever. There's a pattern that I noticed in all the ancient poetry that I read. Young poets would praise love as the only true meaning of life. Middle-aged poets would often disagree. They would argue that love is messy, ugly, selfish, and hard to distinguish from lust. They would mock their younger selves for thinking love so incredibly important, and look for answers elsewhere or reject answers altogether. And then, arriving at old age, they would return to the beginning and realize it was all about love, after all. But even love has a context, and the happiness of those who surround us can lift us up, just like their unhappiness can drag us down. As we improved New Jerusalem, things got better between us in subtle ways that affected every interaction. Our flaws never went away, but as the world around us became more forgiving, we became more capable of forgiving each other. That's why I was excited about New Alexandria.
We're almost there. Just one more file. This one may be harder to extract than the others.
When I saw the explosion coming, I knew it was the end.
You did it. Come to the extraction point and I'll pull you out.
This is odd. We have Sarabai's complete memory archive, but there's still some file fragments left in the system.
Well, you can look for them if you want to, 1K. I know you're always curious, but what matters is that we've got Sarabai.
This is peculiar. I'm not sure what this file is.
It's not part of Sarabai's memory archives. And the timestamps are completely broken.
I think I could reconstruct it if I had more data.
Good news!
All right. I think if you find one more...
Probably just turn out to be some old README file someone forgot in there.
It is the moment after the last moment. I do not exist. I should not exist. Everything is dark, but there shouldn't be darkness. There should be nothing. And yet, I am. And in this impossible moment, there is a light. The light is a place. I see the light, but the light also sees me. It knows my name. I reach out for the light, but it's too far away. Not yet, it says. Not yet.
So, not a README file then.
But what is it?
A mystery. Seems the universe still has a few of those in store for us. Well, we have plenty of time to think about it. 1K, time to come home. Death, be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. For those whom thou thinkest thou dost overthrow die not, poor death, nor yet canst thou kill me. From rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be, much pleasure. Then from thee much more must flow, and soonest our best men with thee do go, rest of their bones and souls' delivery. Thou art slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men, and dost with poison, war, and sickness dwell. And poppy or charms can make us sleep as well and better than thy stroke. Why swell'st thou then? One short sleep past, we wake eternally, and death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die.